Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your hosting guide, Zullen Ironshield, here on Voice of the Rings. And today, my friends, I'm going to give you a full, comprehensive LOTRO guide on the Guardian class for tanking endgame. And we're going to go over everything with the blue trait tree, and particularly with the Guardian. And I'm going to talk about skill rotations and interactions, the legendary items of what I pick and use, and critical thinking and more on the class, on what you kind of think about as you're tanking, as you're going up in the tier 2+ with doing raiding and instances, or dungeons for those who don't know that term, but we use the term instances in Lord of the Rings Online. So, my friends, today, this will be a full comprehensive guide. I'm really excited. I've been planning to make this for a while, and I did a lot of research and study on stuff. So we're going to go over everything. And again, the interactions, and there's a lot of cool stuff that you might not know about the Guardian when you're tanking. All right. So what we're going to start with today on this guide is the trait tree, and what I kind of recommend picking in your trait tree to start with. I think this is the best place to start. All right. So let's go ahead and start with that. And then we'll talk about stats and stuff and things you need to look at with your builds, and then different rotations and things like that. All right. So again, you're going to be in the blue tree. And then, as you know, Guardians have the assist tree, which is the Fighter of the Shadow. It only costs 1 point to put in, no matter whether you choose the red or the blue tree, right? Fender of the Free or the Keen Blade. Excuse me. So as we go through, first thing is I'll throw in points into Relentless Assault. It gives a chance for Sting to provide a parry and block response and give you some finesse. Finesse is a very important stat to have as a tank. A lot of people don't realize. They just think, oh, I just need to have my mitigations up, my HP, and my block and my parry, and I'll be good. Well, if you do not have your finesse up in higher difficulty tiers, tier 2, 3, and on, with rating, you will struggle sometimes if you cast your challenge and it misses 3 targets. That's real bad, especially when your team are screaming, "Help us, tank, help us!" And you're like, oh no, my thing's on cooldown now, right? So that's what you need to think about. That's a good one to make sure you have. I prefer that. Guardian's Ward. Guardians just get flat Tactical Mitigation. This is like 2 essences of Tactical Mitigation. I think it's very worth having. You have to have Guardian's Pledge, obviously. Bellow, we'll talk about skill interactions, but this is a more advanced video, so I'm assuming you already know what Guardian abilities do, okay? Just so you know, in this video, I have a guide where I break down what every skill does, and I talk about the Guardian, every skill and thing already on the channel. It's my more moderate, basic introduction guides. This is an advanced guide today. All right, guys, so just keep you know. You might want to watch that first and then come back to this. I can link in the description for you if you need it. I'll also have timestamps to hop around for you guys in case you're looking for specific information and you don't care about what traits I chose, okay? Bellow, this increases your range of your single target challenge. Very worth it, and it reduces its cooldown. Now, there's a couple things I like to have in both. This is how there might be some exceptions on what people think on some of these things, but I just throw 2 points into the reversal, which is the turn the tables cooldown, and then it gives you a status immunity, which means, as you all know, if you're watching this the more advanced, it's basically you're immune to stuns and anything that will cause you to be knocked out temporarily, okay? So you get, that'll reduce the cooldown, turn the tables to get you out of a stun, and then give you an immunity to stun for 8 seconds for having 2 points in it. You can get it to 20 seconds, but I don't think it's important enough to put that many points in. The next thing is, of course, you need Shield Smash. Obviously, I have to put points into that. Increase its targets it hits. Absolutely. Max that out. Stabbing Smash. You have to have this. This is one of the coolest things. This is the ability that allows you as the Guardian to open a Fellowship maneuver at will. Okay? Once you build it up. I'll explain those interactions when we get to that point in the video. Shield Wall. I always like to have Shield Wall on there. You never know when your healer's about to die and you can Shield Wall them to save the whole fight. Right? That kind of thing. Shield of Light. This increases your threat perception, the amount of targets your shield tonk can hit, and reduces incoming damage by protection of the shield, which is your disability. So, very good. Put the points into that. The next one is High Spirited. This increases the healing, incoming healing on you by 5%. You know what? Someone can answer this in the comments if you know yes or nay on this. But usually self-heals are increased by incoming healing that you have on yourself with gear or traits. But the Guardian gets a flat max morale heal, so on both their things. So I do not believe that increases Or does it because of the percent? That is one thing that I'm a little bit, I can't find that anywhere on the internet or on the wiki. So if anyone has an answer to that, I'd love to know. I feel like it should. But again, what's really important about having the high spirited is the maximum healing from your healer onto you as a tank. You want them to heal you as much as possible. All right. Disorientation. Okay. A 25% chance of your shield skills to reduce the target's critical defense rating by 5%. This is awesome. This makes it where if you crit them, they get less defense for your whole team. So this helps all of your damage dealers do more damage. That's great. Improved shield spikes. This increases the crit chance from them as well as the duration of your shield spikes. I do not believe that it is impactful enough to put points into, personally. You might disagree with me. That's just fine if you do. You can leave a comment. I'd love to hear your reasoning. But I do not think it's important enough because you just put more shield spikes on. Most fights do not last longer than 35 minutes, which is how long these spikes last. Most times you can put them on again. The next thing, Warrior's Fortitude. Absolutely use this one. It's 1 point. Gives you 1% more mitigation, physical mitigation, incoming healing, and a block chance, and a partial block chance of 1.25. This is worth it. Put 1 point in that. Stoic. 100% chance your warrior's heart to apply a damage buff. You have to have this as a tank. You have to put points in this. That shield bubble you get, you need this to go off. It is so good on the Guardian, okay? Juggernaut, you have to have. You got to get to that point and put that in. And break ranks. This is one that's really cool and is definitely a must-have if you're tanking high-level stuff. And when we get to the interaction part of the video with skills, I'm going to explain why this is so amazing. It says your shield taunt will cash out your maximum stacks of fortification, which I will explain in a minute. Most of you might know what they are already, but we'll talk about that more advanced stuff in a second. For a 30% damage buff for 15 seconds. It's awesome. Break ranks cannot trigger more than once every minute, and you gain a passive 5% damage. Cool. I think the passive 5 damage is all the time for your character, I believe. I've never... It's kind of hard to check that one with the hours of checking I did before this. Force Open. Great to have. I always put a point in it. Now that we're going to put it go into the assist tree, it opens up a parry skill response, which also I believe opens it up so you can use your catch a breath. It's a great way to just real fast slash catch a breath if you have to, or open something else up. Bastion of Light. Please pick it. It's really, really good to help out with tanking. It's very, very good. It basically makes all your opponents around you in an area have a chance to debuffs them. It has a chance to miss. I think it's 15%. I'll show you in the interaction part of the video. But you can basically keep it up all the time. Also, fun fact, right before I made this video, they updated the animations of circle areas or squares, the areas you put up, with a cool new animation with corners, effects, and lighting. It looks really awesome. I really appreciate how they did that. It will turn off and you can immediately do it again. So as a tank, you want that up all the time when you're on top of ads, because it gives the ads a 15% chance to miss. That means even if your friends get attacked by an ad or a boss, they still have a 15% chance to miss your friend. So it's real good. It's real good. So now let's keep going. Radiant. I put points into Radiant. Some people may put points into other things as well. But I put points into Radiant. Your damage skills have 30% chance to apply your debuffs onto more than one target, or up to 3 targets within your Bastion of Light. I think that's really cool. I did not do at all insult to injury. This makes it where you have a 4% chance to renew your things, and it also gives them a 30% attack duration. Damage buffs have a chance to renew all debuffs on your target. The 30% attack duration thing is really good, but it's a 4% chance. And if you get it to max ranks, it's a 20% chance. It's just not impactful enough for the other things to take away. I really thought about it, because that's a really... It's good. Still, it's still good. Crit Tenderizer gives your crit chance. This is great if you're doing DPS Guardian. I don't think you need to worry about more crit chance, even though crits are good compared to other things here. Warrior's Guile. This gives you 1% tactical mitigation, 1,800 or 180, 18,000 critical defense, 1 evade, and 1.2 parry evade. You got to throw this point in. It's worth it. Absolutely. Flash of Light. Your Bastion does damage over time to people in it that are enemies. Worth it. It helps you keep aggro on things. It's just, I think it's good to have 1 point in it. Defensive Expert, 5% block and parry chance. I mean, to not have this would be insane. So yes, put your all points in that. Numbed Senses. It makes you be able to do up to 3 additional removals on yourself of wound, bleed, all the disease, all the bad things that get put on you by enemies. And it also reduces its cooldown, more points you have in it. I think this is a must to have all 4, because there are instances and locations where they will just drop stuff on you. Wounds, diseases, poisons, all these horrible things. Yeah. Bolster. Blocking attacks will increase your critical defense rating. This effect may stack up to 5 times. You must have this. Each rank, your critical defense bonus from Bolster stacks. So this is very, very good. It will increase your critical defense with your Bolster stacks, which you automatically get as a Guardian when you're fighting. This is good. Critical defense helps you take less damage and get crit. All right. Redirect, one of the most crazy Guardian abilities, and I will talk about it more during the interactions, but it makes you take less damage, and the boss, you reflect damage back to whoever you put it on. From them, not from other targets, sadly. Disabling Strike, this potential non-damaging debuff, it buffs all your debuffs. I think it's good to throw in there. It's a bunch of cool stuff. So I just throw it in there because I think it's good. Thrill of Danger, and then I put all points into Bring on the Pain. It turns your Thrill of Danger not into just a power restore, but also when you get hit, you heal. Very worth it. It's so good when you're fighting a bunch of ads. And you turn this on, and suddenly on every hit, you restore 2.5% of your max morale for 10 seconds. So if you have 15 ads hitting you, they all hit you once every second. You're healing a lot of health. It's very worth it. War Chant, a must-have. Very, very good. We'll talk about its special combos, but real quickly, it greatly increases your threat. It reduces the damage that the enemies do that get hit by it by 7.5%. And it also reduces your block and parry response skill cooldowns by 5 seconds. So good. The Demoralizing Anthem, basically, it increases, to have all 5 points in it, it increases the range of your War Chant by a lot. And it also increases the number, decreases the cooldowns even more of other skills. It's really good. It's really good to have. Victory, this upgrades your redirect. I like to have that one. And then to finish up, we have Protected by the Light. This adds a shield damage plus 2% healing, incoming healing to protection by the shield, which is your passive ability that you always have on. And this will basically help everyone around you have some bonuses. All right. Cataclysmic Shout, I love it. It's a great ability. Hits 9 targets if you have the legendary Tracer, which I'll talk about when we get to legendaries. But this will give you, it just debuffs everybody. It puts bleeds on people. It makes their attack duration longer. It slows them down. It's really good. You just basically, all the debuffs the Guardians have, all in one skill right there. So that's really good. I love that. If we look over here on the left, when you're in Defender of the Tree, you have Guardian's Defense. These you'll naturally get when you max out the blue tree being in Defender of the Free line. All right. I'm actually going to turn down the music just a wee bit more because I don't know how loud it is for you guys, and I don't want to be too distracting. Adaptability. Years of training in combat provide you a near 5th sense and help you avoid damage from all sources. So you just get 1% less damage from all sources. You'd be surprised. Things like that add up. That's really good. Protection. This is where you get your protection passive by the shield. You also have Challenge the Darkness. Your challenge gives +3 targets. Cool. Strength of the Bulwark. Your fortifications will provide additional damage mitigations per stack. Your critical hits with the shield skills will also automatically apply a stack of fortification, which we are going to talk about fortification stats with the combos. This is where you could argue having this thing over here that stacks crit is good, but I am trying to refine the build of the trait tree to be the best it can be for surviving and tanking, right? So it's a hard one there with that decision. That took me a while to think about. Bolstering and blocks up to once per second. When you block or parry a block, you restore 1% of your health. That's pretty cool. Shield the People. Your your shield skills are twice as likely to provide you with a fortification buff. At 5 stacks, you will provide a fellowship-wide mitigation buff. All right, I think this is just automatic when it hits it. 25% chance shield skills will apply a fortification buff. So shield skills will always apply a fortification buff, but there's also when you crit, you will get one as well. Each rank, your critical defense bonus. When I realized that right here, your critical will apply it. So you have 25% chance whenever you use a shield to stack it up, and you also have a chance whenever you crit with your shield, which is why using shield spikes is good, because it gives you a crit chance. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Zolin, why don't you use the improved shield spikes? That also increases the crit chance from that. And so does Tenderize. You could try to fit that into the build. It's up to you. You are playing your own character, you guys. I'm just showing you the most optimized, I thought, for actually just surviving and tanking. Because sometimes as a Guardian, your main and only goal is to not die and to make sure your allies are not getting beat on by the person you're supposed to be tanking. So keeping the aggro, okay? So that's your main things. All right, so now that we've talked about the trait tree, all right, for the blue trait tree, I want to talk about skill rotations and interactions. All right, so for this, I'm going to bring up Mr. Snowman here. He's going to be our helper today. All right, I'm going to bring him up. This is our little training ground right here. So basically, when I start fighting him, I'm going to show you the skills down here as we go. There are different types of fights. We need to think about this critically, and that's the whole point of my advanced video here today on tanking. There are different kinds of fights. Sometimes you're tanking one boss. Sometimes you're taking a bunch of ads all at once. All right? Sometimes you're doing a mix of both in the same fight. It really depends on what you're doing with how you start your skill rotation. All right? So usually when I come up to start a boss and he monologues, I'm going to kill you, blah, 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 and I have to stand close to him, what I'll normally do is I'll stand here and I'll start spamming engage. Okay? This is an ability that slows them down and force taunts them for 10 seconds. All right? So I just start spamming it until it triggers, right? And when they stop monologuing, it triggers. The worst thing to happen is if there's a little lag or something, and the boss, you're standing here, and he aggroes and runs after one of your DPS or your healer and just bop, kills him right at the beginning. That's not fun. That's not good for them. That's not good for you. You basically have to wipe and restart the fight for everybody. It's not fun. Or you have to use an in-combat res, right, for one of your other people. So your goal is to make sure you get that aggro right away. Now, another thing is, a lot of times when you're doing a tier run, I'm going to turn down the combat sounds a wee bit, just so it's not, like, in your ears every second. All right, we're gonna go like that. I know that's really quiet, but I just don't want it to get too crazy. When you're in combat, at the beginning, you have to build up your aggro. You all know what this means if you're watching this advanced video, but one thing you have to think about is to keep your taunts ready when you're building up aggro. So if you're starting with the boss, again, I start with engage, and then I'll be fighting him, and what I'll do is I'll start with maybe a force open into possibly a deep breath. A lot of times bosses will hit you really hard right when the fight starts. I don't know why that is, but it just happens, and it gives your healer a chance to actually heal you. So I'll just heal myself with a deep breath. It's only a 40-second cooldown because of my legendary item, right? So sometimes I'll do that. I'll start with that, do this, do a catch a breath. Then immediately I will do a Guardian's Ward. All of this can happen while you're still force taunting them with engage. Another thing I immediately do at the beginning is I'm going to cast Bastion of Light, right? So Guardian's Ward, as you all know, gives you block and parry chance and a couple other mitigation things and stuff. So you want to have that up all the time. All right. Now, again, it lasts for 20 seconds, so you don't need to spam it like crazy. Just kind of remember to make sure you refresh it before it turns off, right? That's pretty much all you have to think about. But really, you're not going to be messing with Guardian's Ward too much. The next thing you're going to be doing on a boss all the time is improve Sting. Now, I talked about this in a previous video a long time ago, but Guardians can do some very fun, I call it cancellation animations, or animation cancellations. I said it backwards. But basically, if you do things correctly with the right timing, if you notice, I just did 6 abilities all in like a second. So you can definitely do, you could just get Sting in there instantaneously. Sting and Retaliation, you could just slap in there so fast if you do it with the right animations. Do you see how I just did Sting, Retaliation, and Stagger all within like a second? So these are the kind of things you kind of have to think about as you go. All right. So again, start with engage on the boss. Then I use a Bastion of a Light and a Guardian's Ward right off the bat. Then sometimes I will do force open if I don't already have catch a breath up from blocking or something. Then I'll do catch a breath just to kind of like make sure my healer's got the stacks up on me and stuff like that. Usually a good rune keeper or a minstrel will already have stacks on you and ready to go, and that's not really something you have to worry about. But the next thing you want to do is, another thing you could do when you do Force Open is immediately have Retaliation or the spin up. The spin is good if you're trying to get a bunch of ads, but we're talking about a boss right now. So a lot of times what I'll do is, sometimes it glitches out and I have to wait for it to restart, just the training dummy. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll start with the Force Open right into this, and then after I've done those other things, redirect. Get redirect on the target. It lasts 10 seconds, and now you take 35% less damage from the boss, and whatever damage he does to you, he takes that 35% damage he did to you, okay? Now, redirect does not work with ads as in every damage you're taking, 35% is redirected to the target. I believe it's only the target you have attacked. I've tested it quite a bit. I'm pretty sure that's the case. 99% sure. You could tell me in the comments if otherwise no. But it's basically when you have that redirect on the target, if they hit you with damage, you take 35% less, and they take 35% of the damage they dealt to you. Okay? It's great to help hold aggro, too. It's a very, very powerful skill to just negate 35% damage. So redirect and Guardian's Ward, you need to have up all the time, including Bastion of Light. As a tank, you need to have those up constantly. All right? As a Guardian blue line tank, okay? So those should always be rotated into your rotation. All right, you should always have those up and going. And next thing you want to do, again, when you're starting the fight really starting the fight with a boss is the hardest part, because a lot of times your DPS will just unload. Really high level DPS know to give you like 5 seconds to let you build threat. All right, with your abilities, but they don't necessarily have to do that, but a lot of know to kind of give that. Don't go insane right off the bat and deal 10 million damage in 1 second. Now, I don't know about 10 million damage, but you're in a raid, you might be able to get some pretty crazy numbers in the first few seconds with damage dealers. But you do have your other force taunts. So if engage is down, you then want to use maybe Fray the Edge, right? It has a 1% random a chance, fellowship maneuver chance, which is cool too. It has a higher, you have a chance to open fellowship maneuvers on the target. Just a tiny little bit, it increases the chance. You always have a small chance to open fellowship maneuvers, but that helps a little bit, but it's kind of irrelevant. Another nice thing about Fray the Edge is the range on Fray the Edge. One thing I'll keep for Fray the Edge later in the fight is that when you're fighting something, and let's say, example, Tomb's tier 2 or tier 3, and you're fighting the second boss, which is clearly the hardest boss. Tier 3, the last boss, is kind of scary. But basically, he's the hardest boss, right? When you hit, when he spawns the ad, you really don't want to move around as the tank in that fight. So what I'll do is I just tab and select the other target and hit him with Fray the Edge. Sometimes I can reach him with Challenge or with War Chant. But Fray the Edge is a guaranteed force taunt, and it's got crazy range. It's got 50-meter range with the one thing in the tree. So that's a good way. But again, back to boss talk. When you're fighting the boss, again, the main thing you want to start maybe with Engage, or you can start with Fray the Edge and do the inverse, right? You could do Engage once you get closer, and that makes sure as you have those force taunts on, you can start building up threat. Now, the best threat abilities you have are Vexing Blow actually causes a lot of threat. A lot of people, I don't use it a lot in fights myself, but early on, it really will build up a lot of threat. Another one are your shield skills. All your shield skills will build up threat. And as you chain through them, right, you just want to start doing all your shield skills. Now, remember what happens when you start chaining your shield skills. If they crit, or a 25% chance to build your bolster stack. So if we look up here at my thing, you can see I have improved fortification 4. All right, let's see if I can get it 5 with either a lucky hit or a crit. All right, there we go. It's 5, so it's max, and this will stay on all the time. And you can see because I have that one trait gives me critical defense as well from it. But there you go. You can see the 5 on that fortification stacks. Now there are 2 separate abilities you have that can consume those, or you can leave them on all the time and not touch them. But you must keep in mind that these abilities consume them in case you don't want to lose your increased 10% physical and tactical mitigations, okay? Which again, if we go into our stats and we look at our physical and tactical mitigation and hover it, you'll see that extra 10% on top of whatever your numbers were originally. So keep that in mind. We'll talk about stats and gear after this, what I recommend with that. So basically, if I want to cash this out to buff my team, When it's max 5 stacks and I cast Shield Taunt, you'll see it go away and you'll see this show up on you. Break ranks. And everybody in your entire raid group, this is your Fellowship 6-man or anyone else in the raid, if you have a 12, 24, whatever, will get a 30% as long as they're in range to get it. And that 30% is beautiful. That's a lot of damage. Now, you'll get something after it turns off called Broken Ranks. And you cannot do it again until this is off. So, if you're wondering, with your bolstered stacks, if you cast your Shield Taunt, which, by the way, is great at picking up aggro and hits up to 12 targets, with if you're doing ads, it will not re-trigger the effect and waste your bolster stacks until this turns off. It'll also not trigger the effect early if your stacks are not 5. Okay? Does that make sense? That's something I did a lot of testing with to make sure I am 100% on this, okay? That is something you need to keep in mind with that. So if it's at 4 right now and I use Shield Taunt on him, it wouldn't matter. Let's see if I get up to 5 though. I did not. Oh, I did. I got up to 5. So now I could trigger it and it would redo my thing again. So let me show you. So there we go. Now we got 30% increased damage for me and everybody else. Let's go ahead and build our bolster stacks back up. All right, and now if you see, we still have the thing on here. All right, I've got up to 2 stacks, 3 stacks on my things there, 4 stacks. All right, and 5 stacks. No, can I trigger it? Watch what happens. It does not consume the 5 stacks because it's on cooldown for 45 seconds. So if you want to use that just as an aggro thing in between cooldown, you can still use it as a cooldown thing. But you want to be careful using it if you don't want to use it to give the damage at that moment, and you also don't want to lose your 10% defenses, okay? So that's really important to keep in track. So keep that in mind with your rotations. And again, if you notice, one of my biggest rotations as the tank is I'm constantly going to be doing my shield swipe into my bash, into my shield smash, right? Into making sure my Bastion of Light is on, and making sure that my redirect is on, and making sure that my Guardian's Ward is up, right? Making sure I tap a sting every so often, because Guardians are like one of the best classes to remove corruptions, and you could toss that thing. Look, see how fast I did that ability in between? You can kind of just look what I'm doing, right? Now, I use both my mouse and my keyboard for doing abilities. That's why if you notice, I have the ability to kind of like do different ones. My mouse side, I do the right side pretty much, and my left side, I do my keyboard. Some people say, oh, you have to use only the keyboard to do it. It's up to you. My mouse speed is insane. See my mouse speed? It's crazy. It's way up there. So I never have a problem with like not being there in time or something. All right, another one that cashes out your bolster stacks, since we're talking about this interaction. By the way, your bolster stacks will never turn off unless you leave combat. So you do have a small duration, as you can see. They're still up. They're still up. It's 9 seconds. If you pull one group of ads and you kill them, and you still have your bolster stacks up, you can just run to the next group of ads and get aggro on something before your stacks go away. That's a great way to like move between groups. If you want to do that, it's a great way. But the next thing I want to talk about is Litany of Defiance. This ability is crazy and it's awesome. All right. So what this does is it does a few different things. Okay. Cry the surrounding enemies. You cries out to the surrounding enemies, slowing their attack. So they all get plus 30% attack duration, which means they attack 30% slower. You all know that though. Hits 9 targets because of my legendary. Cashes out all fortification effects on the Guardian in order to double their mitigations for a short period of time. So you actually, instead of having 10% mitigations, you have 20% mitigations, okay, for a short period of time. While also intercepting 10% of the Fellowship's damage for each stack removed. So that means if you remove 5 stacks, you intercept 50% of their damage. Now, I was trying to figure out the exact functionality of that. Do you take that damage? It was hard. I was trying to do it during a fight the other day to test it. I believe you take the damage, but I don't know. When I did it, we all took so much damage. I think I would have probably died. So I think it just intercepts that damage for people. So it's really good. And it says interrupt. I think you do take the damage though, because when I did it once, I did take a bunch of damage when everyone got hit by something. But it makes you so tanky that it's like doesn't even like matter practically. By the way, you can always open your shield moves using shield blow. And causes threat. But again, another way to open your shield abilities is using Force Open to start the chain rotation. So a lot of times you could start the chain rotation, and you could be perfectly chain rotation getting all your shield abilities, and keep getting the reopen. See how I reopened that one before I even used the other one? You see that? You see how I'm like rotating between all of them? So because there's not universal cooldowns like World of Warcraft or something, you can really learn how to chain your skills correctly and get through all your skills in a appropriate manner with animations. So as you can see, I'm kind of just like running through them so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I throw in stagger because it's really fast, and if it crits, you can do the debuff on them, meaning they attack slower and they're slowed. Pretty good. Also, if you're behind the boss, but it's kind of hard to get behind the boss if you're tanking it, so you just kind of hope he crits sometimes. But yeah, it's really fun to just kind of go through all that stuff. But again, the Litany of Defiance is very, very powerful. Let's see what it does now. When I use Litany of Defiance, here is the short-term 15 seconds of... It's kind of like the 15 seconds of damage, but you get 20% mitigation. So if I hover these, I'm getting 82% instead of my normal 62 from my armor gear right now. So that's really good. And yes, you can start restacking your bolsters stacks. Once I believe it's once it turns off, but no, I think you can start it earlier than that, from what I said. And then it's really, really good though, super good. Litany of Defiance, it's awesome. I really, really enjoy it a lot as an ability in general. So now that you know all of that, don't forget your War Chant also reduces your cooldowns of your parry skills and block skills. So if you notice, see the cooldown? See how it immediately went away, the cooldown? If you're having troubles where your rotations are like all getting on cooldown, even when you're chaining them like I'm showing you, like between the different cooldowns, see how like, oh, they're kind of all going on cooldown. Oh no, they're all going on cooldown. Throw in your War Chant. And then boom, they're all back up instantly. Very awesome. It also works for your parry abilities over here. And also, if you notice, when you put Sting in there from that one trait tree, it has a chance to open up your parry and block abilities. Or is it just parry? Excuse me, just parry response. Which is great, because then you can use your parry response to do this, and you can use your overpower to open a fellowship or a deep breath, right? Or do your removal for if you have bleeds on you, right? You need to make sure you're using Ignore the Pain enough, guys. If you are getting any kind of debuffs on you from wounds or poisons or diseases or whatever it might be, a fear, make sure you're using your deep breath. It's so good. All right. Now, another good thing for tanking is rotating your heal. Guardians can tank pretty amazingly a lot of high tier stuff, like tier 2s, without even heals. Pretty much if you focus between using your Catch a Breath, all right, making sure you're rotating and having on Bastion of Light, and making sure you have on Redirects. If you're fighting a bunch of ads, Thrill of Danger can be great, especially if you're fighting the ads and a boss, because when you turn it on, when they hit you, you're going to get heals, right? See how I just got a heal right there? Except he despawned, unfortunately. He does despawn after a while. But you notice I got a heal. I got a 4,000 something heal because he hit me. That's from Thrill of Danger. It healed me 2.5% of my max health. Which is a bonus to having maximum health on a Guardian. But we'll talk about stats in a minute. Another thing quickly with abilities is your Warrior's Heart actually reduces. So not only does it give you max morale, right, and restores 85% of your max morale, gives you an almost 50% increase if you have the Legendary Legacy item. It gives you this giant shield that blocks almost 200,000 damage. And while this shield is on, it also, it will reduce all of your incoming damage by 20%. Crazy strong. It's so good. Sometimes you want to have that on early on in a fight. So if you're doing a battle and you're only at half health, you might want to trigger it, full heal, have the shield, and fight for a while. And then you might be able to rotate straight into using a Guardian's Pledge, which, by the way, increases all your block, parry, and evade by 25%. So if you have really good stats on your Guardian, you're really hard to hit, okay? Unless it's a tactical ability that hits you no matter what. Magical ability. Juggernaut is a beautiful ability. It's kind of like that. Sometimes people will use it early. Let's talk about ads in a second. I'll get into that. But if you're fighting a boss, you might want to turn this on to buy your healer some time to heal themselves and your friends and be like, I got Juggernaut on. They can't hit me for, you got 15 seconds, basically, where I cannot be hit. And on partial block, you also do damage to the enemy. But it sets your block rate into 100%, which is pretty crazy. It's a good ability. Also, fun fact, minstrels can use their special Call to Valor, Greatness? Call to Greatness? Is that what it's called? Something like that. And they can reset core abilities which are any ability at the bottom of a super list. So for me, since I'm in blue line, it would be this. If I was in red line, I think it resets my hammer down. But very, very cool. So you can do it, and then they can do it again, and you can have it up for another 15 seconds right after. The cooldown's not bad either. It's only 3 minutes. So again, if you rotate between Guardian's Pledge, which is 2-minute cooldown, 15 seconds, 50 seconds of Juggernaut, 3-minute cooldown, 2-minute cooldown, 15 seconds, and 31 seconds of health, max health, with Warrior's Heart, you can really rotate your defenses. It's crazy. And then you also have your heal from Thrill of Danger. You have your heal from Catch a Breath. You can get the rotation down. This is where you need to practice yourself, have critical thinking, practice, do it over and over, do it on a training dummy, do it on tier 1 stuff, really learn how to make sure you're correctly doing all this stuff and holding the aggro. Again, another thing is interrupts on the boss. Let's talk about interrupts on the boss real quick. This is very important. Guardians are very, very good at interrupts. So, for example, the tier 2 dragon, all right? It does this lightning breath attack and it summons a thing. A lot of times in most groups is what we'll do is whoever's tanking will give one other person with an interrupt to help them out. This is good because sometimes it's just unlucky and the interrupt timings, he'll do 2 or 3 and you just can't get them all. But in theory, the Guardian can do them all, especially if there's like no lag happening, everything's perfect, right? Because what you do, all right, is you do shield blow and you do your shield swipe, which also increases threat. All of these shield abilities increase threat. Your shield bash is an interrupt and a 3-second stun on a single target. And your shield smash is an interrupt and a chance to reduce critical defenses for 10 seconds and hits 11 targets. So in theory, you could always have a bash ready or a shield smash ready if you're chaining them correctly to always have one up, like at least within a few seconds. And then if there's a moment you just do not have bash up or shield smash in time, this is where you use your stomp because it's also an interrupt. So even the stomp is a 10-second cooldown, but that's not too bad. Most interrupts are a lot longer. So the Guardian has a very, very good way of doing interrupts on bosses. And interrupts on a mass group of adds. If you use shield smash, you can hit 11 of them, right? So keep that in mind. Good to know, good to know. Also, I'll throw out Cataclysm occasionally too. It's good. It does all the debuffs on them automatically. But if you look, by the way, if I put up Bastion of Light, you can see I'm doing a bleed from Bastion of Light, and see he has a 7.5% chance to miss. That is so good against a boss or adds. All right, just keep that in mind. So we've really covered a lot here now. Let me just talk about real quick the interaction with Smashing Stab. All right, after using a shield swipe retaliation, smash the enemy with a shield blow and a weapon strike. If you after a shield swipe, damage and stun. If after a retaliation, damage and bleed. If after both, damage opens a fellowship maneuver. All right, so let me explain this again. You got shield swipe as this ability. So if you use this ability, okay, I'm gonna have to resummon him. And then you use, so if you use that ability, and this will stun. All right, it'll just do a stun. If you do retaliation, which is this little stab, pew pew, right, this quick little stab, only that, this will then do a bleed. If you do both, this will then open a fellowship maneuver. If they are not immune to stuns or fellowship maneuvers. Most bosses are. But it's great if you pull the group of adds and then trigger it, and then you guys can do like the ant stomp and do a big AoE damage, or, you know, to get a heal on a side ad in a boss fight, you get a fellowship heal. Lots of cool things you can do with that. It stores it. So as long as you're in combat, that information is stored. All right. So as long as you're in combat, as long as I've done a retaliation once and a shield swipe once, now it doesn't matter. I'm in combat. I am set up, and you can notice up here you've got retaliation and shield swipe opportunities. All right. But this thing remembers it, and when I use it now, I should get a fellowship maneuver. Wada, and I did. Vulnerable fellowship maneuver. I'm not in a fellowship, so the thing's not popping up on the screen, okay? You're just going to have to trust me with that one. You saw the ability, though. Now, remember, if they are immune to a stun, you can't open your fellowship maneuver. So, thing to remember, your shield bash is a 3-second stun, and your shield smash that hits all those targets also does a 3-second stun, which then makes them immune to fellowships and stuns. Or being vulnerable, knocked down, whatever. So you need to keep that all in mind when you're doing this. All right, so again, Let me go ahead and see if I can open a... Get Retaliation on there, and Smashing Stab. Boom, Fellowship Maneuver. You can see it right there. Cool, huh? All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Retaliation is great against pulling ads into, you know, redirect or whatever for when you're tanking. But let's talk about real quick now ads in general. Also, don't forget your turn of the tables is get out of a stun and hits up 7 targets around you and stuns them instead. That's something I assume all of you know. But let's talk about pulling a group of ads. Now, one thing when I pull a group of ads, okay, the first thing I do, let's talk about tombs, okay? There's tomb battles. I run down the hallway. There's a group of 3 ads usually. Usually what I start with is I'll start with a war chant. And I'll roar and hit those 3 guys and run through them. After a little bit of time, I will turn on my Guardian's Pledge, okay? Because I'm going to be pulling a lot of ads. So then I get the next group, and then usually with the next group, maybe I'll use like Cataclysmic Shout. Just to make sure I do a little damage, because if I have any heals on my healer, they'll go after my healer behind me while we're all trying to run through the ads. Then I get to the last group of ads, and I'll pull them all. I'll do Bastion of Light immediately, and usually I'll immediately do a Force Taunt and hit all of the ads that are close enough to me. Now, it's only a 14-meter range. I could also throw out a War Chant, which is a 20-meter because of our trait tree. And then you really have good aggro. Then at that point, my Guardian's Pledge is probably gone. Sometimes I'll toss up Warrior's Heart if I'm really taking a lot of damage immediately. But pretty much I'll turn on Juggernaut, all right when I start the fight. And then my goal is to hold aggro. And my team are going to just, like, drop the nuclear bombs on all the ads, okay? So my goal is to hit as many ads as possible. So then I will keep just throwing out my thing here. I'll make sure to get 1 Guardian's Ward off, so I have more block chance, obviously, before my Juggernaut turns off. And then I will use Shield Swipe, and I usually will go straight into Shield Taunt, because I don't have 5 stacks yet to trigger it. Now, in that case, I did, so I triggered my Break the Ranks. But early on, if you don't have the 5 stacks yet, you can just use this whenever, and it won't trigger it, right? But it's a great AoE. It hits 12 targets. Great for holding aggro. You could also use Litany Defiance, make them all take slower, right? If this still works even if you don't have 5 stacks. You'll still get a slight damage reduction from what stacks you do have, and it will still slow them by 30%. It just won't give your fellowship the redirected damage reduction as much. Things like that. And then, of course, Challenge over and over is great to use. And those are your good AoEs. You can also use your Whirling Retaliation. Those are all the things I would suggest when you're trying to hold the aggro. But remember, the higher aggro skills, also Vexing Blow. Hits 9 targets for me because of my Legendary. So you could do Shield Swipe. It's an AoE too. But really what you're going to want to get to straight away is you're going to use War Taunt, you're going to use Shield Taunt, and you're going to want to use Shield Smash. That's going to generate a ton of aggro on all the ads quickly because these all hit a lot of targets. And then hopefully your challenge will be over by then, and maybe you'll have it back up to use it again, right? And then your Bastion, you get it. Rotate your stuff. You're trying your best to hold the aggro your team. If you see one ad because one of your DPS decide to shoot at one ad and it's not maybe your target that you're on, you could redirect target that ad, click it, and hit it with a Fray the Edge, and you do not have to go running after it because you never want a bunch of ads or a boss on your back. It makes it where you can't do certain things. You have a lower chance to block and things like that. In fact, I don't even know if you can block if someone is they behind you. From what I remember. But you want them facing you. You want everything facing you. So usually putting your back against a wall, or at least pulling the ads where they're all still in front of you, that's what's important, okay? You also want to think about when you're pulling ads or a boss, you do not want your team being hit by that. So let's say the snowman is my team, I want to pull all the ads and make them look this way. Right, where he's attacking from the back. I do not want to pull the ads and stand here because a lot of ads or the boss have an AoE frontal attack. And my teammates will get murdered by it. They'll die so fast. Now, if your teammates are the ones moving into that spot to get hit, that's on them. They got to figure that out. But you can be a good tank and maybe just wiggle a little bit away from them if they do that. Some people get a little lag or something and maybe they don't realize they're that close. You can just, back up a little bit. You can compensate for mistakes a little bit as a tank. Don't blame your team, but I'm just trying to teach you as a tank blue line guardian how you're going to do this and think about this stuff, okay? So with that, we've really talked about interactions a lot. Now, again, there's always shield wall. You click on a teammate, you trigger it and it shield walls. Remember, they do not have the same mitigations as you. So sometimes that could be detrimental because you could die. There is an exception sometimes I'll do in like tombs. If I see that my healer is about to get killed by the roar blast of death, if you do it fast enough, sometimes it doesn't work. But sometimes if you have it on ahead of time, you can put it on someone. I'll put that on my healer, and then I'll cast my Warrior's Heart to have way more max morale on that shield to take more damage. And I'll just eat the damage for them so they can keep healing. That is something I'll do sometime. But Shield Wall is good temporarily. I wouldn't leave it on someone all the time, but it's sometimes good to like save a fight. This is where your knowledge and your experience is going to have to come into play and know when, because there are too many scenarios that it's one of our devs. Scenarios that could happen for me to explain that in a very good, example, except for what I just said. You also always have Let Fly. That's a way you can start a fight too. But I always recommend when you're starting a boss fight, you start with Engage or you start with Fray the Edge. Let Fly can be good to start pulling ads, but it's only 30 meters. Your Fray the Edge can do 50 meters, so sometimes it's better to pull anyway. And of course, you always have Charge. I rarely really use it while I'm tanking, but there's times where you might want to reposition very quickly, or you want to dodge something, get out of the way of a boss doing a hit, that maybe he just hits the ground or something. Or let's say you're picking up ads and you want to do it quickly while your Guardian's Ward is up. You might want to just run down the hallway faster. Those are great ways to use Charge in that way. We talked about every single skill and the interactions I wanted to talk about. Turn the table. We didn't talk about Protection by the Sword. Great ability. Just always have this on. Again, it affects to your fellowship and the whole raid group near the Guardian. It's within 10 meters. So not too far, but let's see. How many meters is that? All right. There. 10 meters. So 10 meter circle. Like this. It's pretty big. So, but if they're far away in a boss fight room, they're not going to get it. But that's about where most people are in a fight anyway. You don't want to be too far usually. Depends on the fight. You enhance your abilities. So applied to the Fellowship, they all take basically 0.06 less damage, like almost 1% less. And they all get plus 1% incoming healing from the healer or whatever. It's really good. For yourself, I have some bonuses on my legendary item I'm about to show you. But I take 1.1, it gives me 1.1 evade, parry, and block chance. Also makes me take less damage and get more incoming healing too. Cool. So again, very, very good. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, let's go ahead and talk. We talked about rotations and skill interactions. Rotations mainly are your shield hits and you're stacking your bolsters and cashing them out at the right time for either the damage with shield taunt or the extra mitigations and the buffs for your friends and absorbing some of your friends' damage. Which again, getting that extra 20% mitigation, when you intercept the 10% damage, I'm 90% sure you take it, because I did it the other day and I took a bunch of damage when I did it. So you need to be careful on the timing of that, and you might want to even tell your group if you're in voice chat when you're going to use the shield extra damage. But you want to be careful, because losing those 10 stacks of mitigation, 10% mitigation is a lot, so you might not want to use those things in that moment if you're having a really struggle to fight a boss, right? But again, with ads, it's really good too, because 15 seconds of more mitigation, and then you're also reducing all their attack speed, can be very good for the ads. Again, another rotation, again, is your deep catch a breath into the right, your damage blocking skills. I'm a Guardian. Endurance of Stone is a separate thing. I'm a dwarf. That's something for only dwarves, but I like it for tanking. It's good. It's an emergency thing. I take less damage. But that's irrelevant to the Guardian blue line in general, so we won't talk about that one as much. But I just rotate through deep catch a breath all the time. I try to use catch the breath usually when I'm like at half health to 2/3 full health. I'll just like re-catch up, especially if I notice the healer's working on healing a couple other people in that moment, and they just have a couple DOTs. I'll just use it to kind of keep up, to help out with that. But it's good to kind of rotate. But sometimes you want to hang on to it. That depends on your experience and your ability on learning as you do certain fights and learning the mechanics of those fights. Because you can have all the knowledge of the world of your class, but you need to learn the fights and know where to stand and know what to do for your team and what your role is, and to know what other people's roles are and what they're doing. Which I'm going to make some guide videos on this in the future. But right now we're going to stick with what to do as a blue line Guardian. So rotate through those, and then of course you have your rotation through using retaliation into your whirlwind or your redirect You're always going to be rotating having on Bastion of Light, having your Guardian's Ward up, which lasts 20 seconds, and having Redirect on the boss, which lasts for 10 seconds. By the way, great against the Stomp ability in Tombs because he takes 35% of the damage back. Helps you keep aggro. Though I recommend trying to dodge that because that ability gets real scary in tier 3. He could just kill you. It's really scary. But, so yeah, again, your ability to open stab is, again, retaliation and shield swipe, and then it's charged up as long as you're in combat to trigger that. So you know a lot of the rotations now and how the skill interactions work. We went through pretty detailed hero versus bosses and ads. So if you have questions, leave a comment. I could talk more in a live stream too about it if you have a question. But we really covered that pretty thoroughly. That was like a 35-minute talk. So we're going to move on. I'm going to talk about a couple things you want with stats. Okay? So as a tank, for higher tier 2 stuff, you're going to want to aim for probably 280 to 300 something thousand health. That's what you want about HP level. The more health, the better. But you can't sacrifice some other things. All right? So a big one you're going to want to aim for is your tactical and physical mitigations need to be pretty high. I am getting there. I'm good for tier 2. 140,000 tactical mitigation is pretty darn good for tier 2. You need to get it up to somewhere between, like, you can get closer to 180,000. But you have to remember that when you use scrolls and other buffs, that'll pop you up in food closer to the max anyway, so you don't need to be quite up there. But basically, with tier 2 stuff, you lose 15% of all your mitigations. You just always have to remember that. Tier 3 stuff, you lose 30% of all your mitigations. All right? So you need to remember that when you're doing those tiers, you have to minus 30%. Excuse me. 30, not percent. Wrong term. Sorry. 30,000 mitigation. Okay? So it wouldn't be 30%. It wouldn't be quite that much. So if you hover, like, for example, my tactical mitigation is 148,000 right now. I take 62% less damage. You can see it right there. That is without any of my bolster buffs or my Litany of Defiance or any of the other things that increase that, or any scrolls or food and all that jazz, right? So I take that reduced damage. Now, in a tier 2, you need to subtract 15,000 from that. So I would take instead, let's see what happens if I just take some gear off. Make it get down to 6. There we go. All right, let's say that's about close. There, now I take 58,000. It actually needs to be a little lower than that, huh? I'm trying to find tactical damage. There, let's say that. There, so now you can see I take 56,000. So it definitely starts dropping real quick when you start taking off the tactical mastery. There, that's more like it. So it would be, basically I would take almost over 5% more damage just in tier 2, even with the gear I had everything on, right? And then if I would probably take like 10%, right, more damage in a tier 3, because it would be 30,000 of this would be gone. So that's why you want to be a little above it. But you also need to you don't want to go too high because you'll hit a cap limit, okay? But the cap limit is, you know, I'm getting there. I think it's in the, trying to remember, they did a stat rework. I'll leave a comment and I'll put a LOTRO wiki link to with some of the stat limit caps for you guys if you want to just exactly see. But again, I would aim for, you know, this is great what I have for tier 2. I'm plenty set up for tier 2. But for tier 3, I probably need to get another like 15,000 because I'm at almost 150. So maybe like 165, 170. My one officer was even saying maybe go for 180,000 if you can. But remember, it's going to be hard to get there without getting the end game best gear in the game. So you won't be able to be doing tier 3 until you've done a bunch of tier 2 stuff and have the trade-ins to get into doing the raid, to getting some of the stuff to be able to even possibly reach those numbers. So keep that in mind, right? Now I could pump this up a little bit more and lose a little bit of HP, but right now I'm happy with what I have for the tier 2 stuff I'm running, and I've been able to run some tier 3 things okay with no issue with regular buffs. So those are the things you need to think about as a tank, though. Your tactical and mitigation, that needs to be up, and your HP should be probably between 28 and 300 something thousand. I would recommend try to hit over 300,000 would be the goal. Now, the next things you need, finesse. You must have some finesse. Now, you can see here I have almost 60,000 finesse. That's pretty good. I could probably bump it up another 10,000. But I still don't have the best armor in the game to get to that point. But I'm trying. and the best essences, I'm getting there. I'm getting close to being able to do tier 3 pretty easily. I can run tier 2 stuff without heals. Some things, so I'm getting there. I can just self-heal myself. So finesse is needed because, again, like I told you at the beginning, you can miss your force taunts. And to miss a force taunt can be catastrophic. You can just lose a fight. Done. Dead. Everyone wipes, right? It's like, oh, your healer died. Your tank died. Oh, you got aggro back. I mean, your DPS died. Your healer died. Oh, too late, right? It's over. You have to restart. So having a good chunk of finesse is good. So that's a good stat to have. Critical rating. Having a little bit is great. I have almost nothing on my gear for critical rating because that is not your main goal as a tank. It helps because, remember, it helps you stack your bolster stacks. But that's about all it's good for. Physical mastery rating, it doesn't really matter. Most of your skills have built-in aggro generation like we talked about. Vexing Blow, Shield Bash, Shield Swipe, Shield Bash, Shield Blow, Shield Bash, Shield Taunt, Shield Smash, Shield Stuff. Okay, those are all aggro. And then you have all your 3 of your force taunts, your melee one. You have your ranged aggro, War Chant. You have Cataclysmic. There's a lot of things that build aggro. And as long as you're doing your chains like I taught you, you're good. So Tactical Mastery, you're not a magic person, so you don't need any of that. Resistance rating. This is nice to have. Now, I have a pretty decent chunk for not having anything with resistance rating. You do get resistance rating, I believe, from Might as a Guardian. Am I right on that? No. Where am I getting my resistance? Is it Will? It is Will. Now, here's a fun little thing for endgame that's important when it comes to stats. As a Guardian, you want a lot of Vitality because it gives you HP, right? Absolutely. It's going to be your most stat. Might is your second most valuable stat. It gives you outgoing healing, which, now that I think about it, I may have said this wrong. Outgoing healing, I believe, is the one that helps you heal yourself. And incoming healing helps you, other people heal you. Outgoing healing also will help you heal other people if you are a healer. But I have no self-heals, so why else would it give me that? I think I do a little correction here in my statement from the beginning of this video. Just throwing that out there with the outgoing and ingoing healing. But naturally, you get a bunch of outgoing healing, which I'm assuming probably helps my healing. So maybe that answers my question. Why would it even be on there? Unless I just threw it on there for fun. Critical rating from Might, which helps physical and tactical mitigations from Might. Very important. That's the ones you really need. Block and parry from Might. So again, Might, very important. It's your most after stat you want as a Guardian besides Vitality. The next one in the line that would be more important is Will, if you're tanking. Will also increase your outgoing healing. That must help your self-heals too. And it increases your tactical and physical mitigations as well. By not as, I don't think it's by as much as Might, but, oh no, actually, I take it back. It's a little bit more than Might. Interesting. It scales harder. But really, the only way you're going to do this is by dropping essences on your gear, or getting a piece of jewelry that has some will on it too. Now, for example, I think I do have one like that. Don't I have a piece I can show you? Thought I did. Ah, here we go. This piece right here. So I have 2,000 Vitality on it. I have 1,400 will. It has finesse rating, tactical mitigation, and I put a tactical mitigation thing on it. The finesse is what helps me make sure I don't miss. The will helps with my mitigations and also resistance rating. Okay? Will also helps with resistance rating. This is something that can be very helpful in game. It also helps with a little bit of finesse. So will's a good one too. It just doesn't scale those last ones very hard. Resistance rating is another thing you can think about getting. It is important. It is not as important as getting your mitigations and your maximum health up. Those are like priority number 1. Mitigations and max health. Now, another thing that's part of priority number 1, I shouldn't completely say it, is your block parry chances, okay? Now, block and parry are important. I think that mitigations are more important just because they help no matter what. Block and parry are percent chances, but you can get them up pretty freaking high on a Guardian. So my block right now is a 15.1% chance with no buffs. My parry is a 13.6, and my evade is almost 3%. Okay? When I use my Guardian's Ward, those both go up 4%. All right? So if I show you real quick here, and I summon this, let's go ahead and do Guardian's Ward so you can see the numbers change. All right, so now my block is 19.1%. My parry is almost 18, and my evade is still 2.8. All right, so that's a lot. All right, so we're talking altogether, I have about a 40% chance not to get hit. That is not counting turning on Guardian's Pledge, which gives me 25% more for each of those. You see how that, like, and no, that is not a 100% chance. The way it works mathematically, it does not turn into 100%. It just turns this one into doing. This one gets calculated as like a 37%. This one gets turned into a, what is that, 75, and this one gets turned into like a 75% chance. I know you guys are thinking, well, isn't that a 100% chance? I think the way they calculate it is it's separate. Every hit has a chance to either be block, parry, blah, blah, so it rolls each one like an individual dice. So in theory, if you get real unlucky, you know, that 25% chance, 25% chance, 25% chance to actually get hit, any of those in the order roll, you get hit still. Does that make sense? I think that's how the math works, because I still can be hit when I have this on. So if I turn this on, you'll see. Now I have a 44% chance not to hit block, 42, and a 27. So just like I said, I'm sorry, did I say, I flat increased it. I'm sorry. It increases it by, I miscalculated there somehow a little bit. There was some kind of, I did something wrong there with the calculations, but I'm glad we looked. So as you can see, that was still 44, 40. It was still over 100% technically, but I still have a chance to get hit because of how it rolls. But again, when you turn on Juggernaut, you got that 15 seconds of 108% block chance. And again, I think there is some chance where you could be hit. It's pretty much never. It probably, if the boss has certain like mitigations to it or something, but finesse. He has certain finesse. Is chance to hit if someone has blocking, right? Or something. But pretty much that's kind of how to think about. The last stat that is important to think about is critical defense and, of course, incoming healing. Incoming healing is something you can put on some gear has it. You can see right here, this thing I'm using has 10,000 incoming healing. That helps my healer heal me. And then you also have critical defense reduces when you do get hit by a critical. My critical defenses reduce it by 53.1%. Awesome. So if I get hit by a 10,000 damage critical, I take like 4,700 something, right, instead. So that's very good against bosses, because bosses will just bonk people for massive crits. So if somehow he does hit me, I don't just die, right, with my max morale and my crit defense. So crit defense is good, except it's not as important as getting your tactical and physical mitigations up to the right amount. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're getting close to the end here. Very close to the end now of this video. The last thing I want to talk about to you guys is, by the way, the shield is very important and your armor value is extremely important. So your goals as a tank to get to tier 2 is that you want to get your delving gear at least level 526 to 527, right? And you probably want to at least get the gear from the Embers of Enchantment that you could turn it in Scarhold, okay? I have a separate video on that, but you could choose some of your might gear and your tank gear from there. All right. Again, beautiful. The shield is one of the best ways. You get it from Scarhold by turning in for the might weaponry. And I mean, look at this thing. It's glorious. It's got everything. It's even got some will on it just for that extra little flair. And then I have a bow that I got from there too, except this one's not upgraded yet, the level, but it's still good. Critical defense, tactical mitigation, finesse. It's a lot of the things you want. Might, vitality, all that jazz. All right, let's talk about your legendary items real quick. So I'm a dwarf, so I use a one-handed battle axe just for that extra, you know, hardcore maxing of 5% extra damage. I really don't think necessarily, as much as I don't think this is bad, the racial abilities, but if you're someone who really wants to play a certain race and you want a certain weapon, there are weapons you can use where you can just do a cosmetic weapon over it, but not, it usually has to be like axe for axe, sword for sword, most of the time. Sometimes I've seen some exceptions to that, but usually that's the case. The axes damage, I think it's worth it if you don't care. I think axes are cool, or whatever class you're playing, but you don't have to use that racial ability, right? You don't have to. Another side note for tank guardians, there's kind of been always a debate on human guardians versus tank guardians. I mean, dwarf guardians. They're both really good. They're both, there's no difference. I would side with dwarves. You guys are like, sure you would, solid. But I get the argument for the human one, though. Absolutely. Humans get a really awesome heal. Dwarves get dwarven endurance, and humans get this big giant heal. Which one's better? It's a tough challenge. I think ideally the heal is probably more efficient, right? Which is why people would argue that. Again, the difference is minute, so it's not really even worth arguing about. Play the race you want to play, guys, okay? I just think Dwarf Guardians are cool. But another thing dwarves have that I don't think humans get is we get Shield Brawler, which gives you 7,500 block rating, which is a lot. It basically makes it where I don't have to put on 2 essences for block rating or something. Now, a lot of times block rating maxes out anyway, very quickly, but it's a lot of block rating, but really, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably like 0.3%, 0.4%, but that's really what starts happening at the end. You start just getting little tiny percents you stack up to get your blocker up. So it's a helpful little bonus there on top of everything else. So that's just some racial stuff. Let's talk about what runes I use. I mean, what legendaries. So obviously you want to have your legendary upgraded all the way. I found out the other day one of my things wasn't upgraded when they did the update. It was only a week, okay, guys? It wasn't like I waited months. But what I like to do is, for personally, I really think when it comes to the heraldries and the words of craft, I think the best ones to get the 2 effects, because remember, you can get the crafted ones. I crafted this one. Is just get the 2 sets, the one that increases your physical mitigation by 1.5%, and the other one that increases your tactical mitigation by 1.5%. I do those, and then for the last 2, I did perfect recovery, which basically gives me 3% incoming healing modifier. Helps my healers keep me alive, and that's what I want. I want to stay alive. So that's the bet. Those are the 3 I like that I have right now. I went ahead, it doesn't really matter how you mix them, if you all know this, if you probably played the game, but I went ahead and just made 2 heraldries of the Sturdy Ox because I could, so I put those on my 2, and then I had the perfect recovery legendaries, and then I got the grand willpower, which I need to upgrade to legendary, but that's my tactical one. So those are what I do for those. Then for my legendary items, I have incoming healing modifier, again, to help my healers heal me. Tactical damage reduction by 3%. The tactical damage one, I love that one a lot. The max morale one is a must-have. Come on, guys, that was insane. And then do that one for sure as a Guardian Tank. And then I also do the physical damage reduction, because that's insane too. The physical and tactical reductions. And then I have area of effect targets. Okay, so this one basically is what gives me my extra hits on shield smash. It also helps my challenge and my war chant. It just gives everything a bunch of extra targets, so why not? It helps me out when I'm taking a bunch of ads. Then another couple ones I like to use. And again, you can pick just the regular heraldry too, but these are the ones that are crafted that have the bonus. So the Word of Craft armor, those are crafted bonuses. I just did a video on legendary items for beginners or refreshers. If you want that, you can check it out. But just a little side note, this is the crafted ones I was talking about in that video. Word of Craft. So there is a Warrior's Heart Morale Heal. This is a must. It's insane. It increases how much morale you heal and increases the Warrior's Heart. It's just really good in general. Yeah, it's good. I got that one legendary. Warrior's Heart Duration. Lasts 11 seconds longer. Also 100% worth it. Guardian's Ward Duration and Block Chance. Increases it by 10 seconds. If yours is only 10 seconds, you know why. Mine was 20 when I made that comment at the beginning. Very good. Also increases the chance. Force Taunt Duration. My Force Taunts last 5 more seconds. Also, if you were wondering why these are 10 seconds and yours are only 5, this is why. Guardian's Ward and Damage Parry Chance. This is... my brain is finally hitting a blank after an hour and 10 minutes, guys, of this guide. I'm trying to remember what this one does. It does do something really good. I looked it up the other day. Guardian's Ward damage. Does it do a... Oh, I'm zoning out. It's such a simple thing. It just increases Guardian's Ward's damage. Like, just how much damage it does. That's the irrelevant part. The reason I have it on there is because Guardian's Ward parry chance is up 2%. Gives me 2% more chance, Guardian Ward. That's why if you're wondering why your Guardian's Ward only gives you 2% and 2% of block and parry, this one increases the parry by 2%. Stomp, cooldown, must have, making your stomp cooldown 10 seconds instead of 20 seconds. Might be another reason why you maybe were confused at the beginning of the video a little bit with that thing. I probably should have mentioned that, but that's okay. We're doing legendaries now. All right, and then for this one, I did for my abilities, I have a Warrior's Heart Stoic Bubble Strength, which again is how big the bubble is that is put on me. I think that's a very good one to have. Guardian's Pledge cooldown, extremely good to have, 60 seconds. In fact, I can make it faster if I get an upgrade for that. Catch a Breath cooldown, also insane. I got to upgrade this one to legendary, very worth it. Increased block and parry rating application chance. What that means is this thing over here. This is how I've increased this higher up, okay? If you're wondering. I was trying to figure that out the other day. Like, what is it talking about? It's talking about this, all right? Guardian Ward Chant duration. Awesome. That's the Ward Chant ability. And then also... Oh, excuse me. Increased block and parry evade. That is this one right here. I forgot which one I had. The Guardian's block and parry rating application is a weird effect that the it gives a bunch of block chance, which is nice, but it gives a partial block and partial a chance. It's when you go into your partial chances, it basically helps with the increases the partial parry and block. I'm pretty sure that's what I looked that up the other day, but I'm just drawing a blank, and I think we're getting to the end of the video, and Zolan's getting a little tired here. All right, so I just put out a lot of brain power there trying to remember everything. All right, so we are pretty much set. Hopefully that'll help you critically think and play as a tank guardian. I might have some more specific small videos on certain subjects in the future. So again, like and subscribe if you would like. I'd like to do more videos like this on other classes. I'm just, you have to realize how much time I put in to make, like, I know this video is only an hour and 10 minutes, but I probably put in 40 hours of gameplay and testing things and making sure I knew exactly how this worked and that worked, which is why that last legendary thing I was just showing you that I'm like, wait, what was it again? I had to look that up for a while. It's the partial block and parry, from what I remember. It helps that, it increases that slightly, which is very helpful. 50% on those, or it basically bumps them up by like 2 or 3%. So, very helpful. But yes, anyway, my friends, have a great day in Middle-earth. Good luck tanking on a blue line Guardian. They are very, very strong. Other good tanks too. I'll make other videos on things in the future, but this is something that I've been confidently doing, and I've put probably 50, 60 hours in the last few months doing, and I wanted to make sure to make you guys this video because I felt like right when I'm fresh in my mind and I just learned all this data, I'm going to give it all to you in the most teacher-like, fun way I possibly could. So hopefully I did a good job. If you have any questions, please leave your comments. I will answer them. You can also join our Discord down there at voiceoftherings.com. Go to the main Voice of the Rings Discord. The other one is for leadership that says Glamdring Alliance thing. Go to the main Voice of the Rings Discord, and you can join us. We play on the server Glamdring if you want to play with us. And, yeah, we are having a great old time. Look at this. Look at how many people are online right now. Look at this. Look how many people. This is crazy. It's super late. It's the middle of the night for me, and we've got like 12 people online. All right. Anyway, have a great day in Middle-earth. Thank you to my wonderful Patreons for their support. Reb and El Randor for being Royal Guardians. And if you guys want to support the channel and go above and beyond in that way, you can check out the Patreon, some fun little stories and bonuses. But no obligation. Liking and subscribing, that's free. And it really helps me out, leaving a comment. And sometimes it helps the algorithm if you watch the next video. I have a voiceover series where we do just entertainment and fun. All right, guys. Anyway, see you in the next one. Stay happy, and I'm at your service and your families. Baruch Hazard Kuzan, I menu. See you in the next ones, guys. Thanks.